Level 1. The Garage Tinkerer. You're 16 years old. Your parents just bought a used Honda Civic for $3,000. It's white. It has 140,000 miles on it. The previous owner smoked in it, and the interior smells like it. The paint has oxidized on the hood. One of the door handles is held together with electrical tape. It is the greatest thing you have ever owned. The first weekend you have it, you spend 6 hours on YouTube watching videos about cold air intakes. You don't fully understand what you're watching. You understand enough. You understand that there are people who take ordinary cars and make them into something else entirely, and you want to be one of those people. Monday, you go to the auto parts store with $85 you saved from working at the grocery store. You buy a cheap cold air intake. You spend 4 hours in the driveway installing it, stripping one bolt, cutting your knuckle on the subframe, and questioning every decision you've ever made. Then you start the car. The engine sounds different. It's subtle, probably nothing, but you can hear it and you know what you did, and that's everything. You start a list. Exhaust, coilovers, wheels. The list grows faster than your bank account. You work more hours at the grocery store. You watch more YouTube. You find forums. You find communities of people who understand exactly what you're doing and why. Your friends think you're obsessed. You are obsessed. You don't see the problem. You're 16 years old and you've found the thing. Level 2. The car meet regular. You're 18. Your Civic has a front lip you painted yourself in the driveway. It's not perfect. One side sits slightly lower than the other, and if you look closely, you can see a run in the paint near the passenger corner. You see it every time. Nobody else sees it. You're going to your first real car meet tonight. A parking lot behind a mall, 2 hours away. You've seen it on Instagram for 6 months, and finally you're going. You arrive, and there are maybe 200 cars and 300 people, and the sound of modified exhausts, and the smell of burnt rubber, and you have never felt more at home anywhere in your life. People walk past your Civic. Most don't stop. A few glance. One guy in a built EK hatch stops and looks at your intake setup and asks what you're running. You tell him. He nods and moves on. That nod. You think about that nod for 2 weeks. You start going to every meet within driving distance. You learn the unwritten rules. You learn who the real builders are and who's all show. You learn that the community has levels, and that most people at meets are somewhere near the bottom, and that the people near the top are easy to spot because they are not trying to impress anyone. You want to be one of those people. You start saving harder. You stop spending money on anything that isn't the car. Your girlfriend says you love the car more than you love her. You don't say anything. That's probably true, and you both know it. Level 3. The track day driver. You're 20. You've been to the track for the first time. It changed everything. The street is where you show the car. The track is where you find out what you and the car can actually do. Your first session, you went out in the beginner group and got passed by a completely stock Miata, driven by a 55-year-old woman named Carol, who has been doing track days for 8 years. You were not prepared for how humbling that would be. But Carol also pulled up next to you in the paddock after the session and told you exactly what you were doing wrong. You were braking too late and carrying too much speed into the corners. You were fighting the car instead of working with it. She told you to find a driving instructor and pointed at a guy across the lot. You spent the rest of that day, session after session, getting instruction, and by the end, you were 2 seconds a lap faster than you started. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much. At the track, it's everything. You start spending differently. You sell the wheels you bought for the car meet and buy proper track wheels and tires. You add brake pads that can handle heat. You pull out the back seats to save weight. The car looks less impressive at meets now. You don't care. You know something about this car that you didn't know before. You know how it feels at the limit. And once you know that feeling, you cannot unknow it. Level 4. The serious builder. You're 23. The Civic is gone. You bought a project car, a 1994 Integra with a blown engine, and a salvage title that you got for $1,500. Your parents thought you'd lost your mind. You probably had. You spent 8 months building that car from the ground up. Engine swap, full suspension overhaul, brake upgrade, cage, harnesses. You learned to weld. You learned to fabricate. You made mistakes that cost you time and money, and you fixed them and learned from them and made different mistakes and fixed those too. The first time you drove it on track, it ran a lap time that put it in the top third of the timing sheets for its class. Not fastest. Top third. You were not disappointed. You understood exactly what that meant. It meant the build was right. It meant your decisions were defensible. It meant you knew what you were doing now, not because someone taught you, but because you figured it out. You start getting questions at the track. People looking at your setup and asking, who did the fabrication? You tell them you did. They look at you differently after that. There is a specific kind of respect in this community for people who do their own work. Not because it's cheaper, because it means you actually understand what you've built. You are not just an owner. You are a builder. Level 5. The known name. You're 26. People know who you are. Not famous. Not yet. But in your regional scene, your name means something. When you show up at a track day, people recognize the car before they recognize you. At meets, people bring their friends over to see your build. You've been featured in 2 online magazines. One of them had a comment section, and most of the comments were good, and some of them were people saying they could have built it better, and you read those comments too many times, and then you stopped reading comment sections entirely. You start getting messages, guys asking for advice on builds, guys asking if you'll look at their setup. You help when you can. You remember being the guy asking questions, and you remember how much it meant when someone actually answered. You also start getting a different kind of message. Shops asking if you want to represent their parts. Companies sending you things to try and post about. You're careful about which ones you say yes to. Your credibility is the only thing that actually matters, and you know it. You've also learned something harder. This life costs things. You've spent more money on cars than most people spend on furniture and vacations and experiences combined. You've missed things. You've prioritized weekends at the track over weekends with family. You've let relationships go because they couldn't compete with this. You don't regret it exactly, but you hold it. Level 6. The professional tuner. You're 29. Someone is paying you to do this now. It started with a friend who needed his car tuned and didn't trust anyone else with it. Then a friend of that friend. Then a stranger who found you through a forum post. Within 2 years, you have more work than you can handle out of your garage. You rent a small commercial space. You buy a dyno. You take on an apprentice. You are a professional automotive tuner. This changes things in ways you didn't fully anticipate. When it's a hobby, you do it because you love it. When it's a business, you do it because customers need it done. And they're paying you, and the deadline is real, and the pressure is real, and some days, the thing you loved most feels like work. That's the part nobody warns you about. But there are other days. Days when a build comes together exactly the way you planned it. When you make a change to a tune and the numbers climb the way they should, and the car pulls on the dyno in a way that is almost violent, and the customer is standing there watching the screen with their eyes wide, and you know that you did that. You built that. You made that happen. Those days are why you got into this. Those days are still why you stay. Level 7. The respected shop. You're 34. You have a real shop now. 4 bays, 3 full-time employees. A waiting list that runs 4 months out. Your name on the building. Cars come to you from 3 states away because of your reputation for doing work correctly the first time. The work is different at this level. You're not just building for yourself anymore. You're building for customers who trust you with cars they've spent years saving for. That trust is heavy. It requires you to be honest when the customer's plan isn't going to work. It requires you to have the conversation about budget and timeline that nobody wants to have, and to have it before you start work, not after. You've gotten better at those conversations. You've also gotten better at saying no. Not every customer is the right customer. Not every build is worth doing. You've learned that taking the wrong job costs you more than passing on it. Your employees watch how you handle things. You are responsible for more than just the cars now. You are responsible for how they learn this trade, for what they think the standard is, for whether they're proud of the work they do. You take that seriously in a way you didn't expect to when you were 16 years old, stripping bolts in your parents' driveway. Level 8. The legend. You're 45. You have been building cars for nearly 30 years. There are people in this community who started coming to track days because they saw a photo of one of your builds online 15 years ago. You've lost count of how many cars have come through your shop. You know the rough number. It's in the hundreds. Some of those builds have gone on to win championships. Some are still being driven hard every weekend by owners who call you every few months to check in. Some have been wrecked. That's part of it. Cars are not meant to be preserved. They're meant to be used. You still believe that. You have less patience for the people who build cars just to look at them. You've always believed that a build should be honest. It should do what it looks like it can do. You've been consistent about that for 30 years, and it is the thing you are most proud of. There have been offers, companies wanting to license your name, TV shows wanting to feature your shop. You've said yes to some of them and no to more of them. The ones you said no to were the ones where the deal required you to be something you're not, where it required you to pretend that things were simpler than they are, or that results were easier than they were. You don't do that. You've never done that. The young builders who come to you now are different from what you were at their age in some ways, and exactly the same in the most important ways. They want to understand how things work. They want to build something real. They want to be taken seriously by people who know what serious looks like. You give them the same thing that was given to you when you needed it most. You answer the question. You show them what you see. You tell them the truth about the work. And somewhere right now, a 16-year-old is in a driveway stripping a bolt on a cheap cold air intake and cutting their knuckle on a subframe and questioning every decision they've ever made. Tomorrow, they'll start the engine, and it'll sound slightly different, and they'll know what they did. And that will be the beginning of everything. Most people who feel that feeling put the tools away after a few tries. You never put the tools away, and 30 years later, your name means something in a world that only respects the work, and that is everything.